Hello, my name is Nathaniel Mackay and I manage a property portfolio in Emerald, Queensland. Every year, hundreds of tenants are put into rentals that should have never been approved. Today, I'm going to walk through how to know whether to approve or reject an application that has been submitted to you for approval. And this won't be some vague recommendation. It will be a tried and tested formula that I myself use when submitting applications to owners for approval. Look, putting the wrong tenant into your investment property is a nightmare. You'll end up with rental arrears, court cases involving the police, damages to the property. All of that can be avoided by following a simple formula. Now, why should you listen to me? Well, I manage $90 million plus in property assets every single day. We have dealt with hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs. We have leased hundreds of properties and inspected thousands of properties. That means we know exactly what to look for when we are looking to secure a new tenant for one of our clients. On my screen is what I'm going to walk through step by step. First, I'm going to show you why you should never accept an average or poor quality application. Second, I'm going to explain what ticker means and why it absolutely matters. Third, I'm going to explain the benefits and disadvantages of a company application like a mining company or a restaurant being the effective leaseholder of that tenancy. And last but not least, I'm going to show you what to check prior to approving an application. This is 99% of what we look at when sending an application to the owner. I'm going to give you the exact PDF that we use so you can check it against any applications that are sent through to you. Topic 1. Why you should never accept a poor quality application. Let's put ourselves in a situation many property investors experience. The current tenant has moved on, leaving the investment property empty. What that means is that you, as the investor, are making no money at all because there's no rental income. The property has already been advertised online and maybe your property manager has shown a few people through, but in the end, nobody wanted to proceed. Then an application comes along that is super keen to proceed. The property manager sends through the application to you as the investor saying, hey, this is what we have available. But there's a few issues. The rent to income ratio is high. The previous rental reference was not the greatest, or it came from a private landlord, which could just be their best mate acting as a landlord. And they have only been working at their job for a few weeks. That there is a combination of red flags that we would pick up. But because the property is vacant, the property manager wants to secure the leasing fee and the investor wants to have rental income and the property manager also wants to look good, both of them approve the application to go in. That decision right there is like putting a band-aid on a gunshot wound. It is a temporary fix that will not permanently fix the problem and in fact will make the problem worse. On my screen here, I have created a table to show what a poor quality tenant is really costing you. The far left column is the months and the total rent per month that this investment property could achieve. In this case, it's $2,600 per month or $600 per week. The middle column is the income you would receive if you approved a poor quality tenant to reside at your property. Then the right column is if you approved a great tenant to reside at your property. Let's start at month 1. At month 1, the poor quality application will move in immediately because they will be desperate for a rental, probably because they were kicked out from their last one. At month 1, for the great application column, there is no tenant. Sometimes it can take a little longer to secure a great tenant. In this scenario, you are up $2,600 if you approve a poor quality tenant, and you are negative $2,600 if you're trying to secure a great tenant. At month 2, you receive a full month's rent from the poor quality tenant, and the great tenant has now moved into the property, meaning you are up $2,600. At month 3, whether they are a poor quality tenant or a great tenant, in both scenarios, you receive $2,600, so a full month's rent. Nobody is in rental arrears. If you approved the poor quality application, your total revenue would be $7,800. If you approve the great application, your total revenue will be $5,200. Now you might be thinking, well, even if they were a poor quality tenant, there's no issues. So why make the hassle and why go on about saying that you should never accept a poor quality tenant? The truth is, Accepting a poor quality tenant is simply a time bomb. I have seen the time bomb go off in month 2, and I've seen it go off in month 4, or even later than that sometimes. At month 4, the poor quality tenant could relapse, lose their job, go through a separation, a very unfortunate thing to see. However, the tenant stops paying rent. By the time you go through the required steps to remove a tenant from the property because they aren't paying rent, legally that is, you will have lost another month. At month 5, the tenant abandons the property and disappears. But the property can't be leased immediately. You need to arrange a full bond and carpet clean, which comes to, on average, $1,600. You will have to repair all of these damages that the tenant caused and any neglected maintenance that the tenant failed to mention, which can come to around $2,000. You'll have to replace all the locks because you don't want the tenant going back in once you have fixed everything else up. That can cost $700. This also includes a reprogramming of garage modes. And last but not least, you're not making any rental income. So you're negative $2,600 as well. The total repairs come to $4,300. The tenant's bond of $2,400 will not cover all these costs. Not to mention, it can take up to 14 days to receive the bond back into the property manager's trust account so it can be allocated accordingly. In month 6, you could lose another month's rent while the works are being completed. These things cannot be completed at the same time. You cannot have sanding and painting going to repair patches while you were cleaning the property, while you were changing locks, while a plumber is there. It's not possible. They need to be done in order. The locks need to be changed, the repairs need to be done, and only then can the cleaners come in. I want you to look at the difference between the two situations. From month 2, if we zoom out a little bit, the quality tenant pays rent on time and you receive consistent rental income with little stress. It's a property investor's dream. In total, if a poor quality application was approved and they became a tenant, it would be $1,700 out of pocket. Then after the bond of $2,400 was used, you would make a measly $700 for 7 months of work. That is terrible by any measurement. If the great application was a tenant, you could have made $13,000 in 7 months with less stress and less hassle. Not to mention your property will be in better condition because there won't be all these patches everywhere where the previous tenant had punched holes in the walls. The moral of the story is, even if it takes longer, only put quality applications into your investment properties, even if the property manager is pushing for the opposite. Unfortunately, many property managers just want the letting fee, which means they put anybody into the property and 6 months later you're having all of these issues. I get it though, sometimes you can do as many checks as possible and you still have these tenants come through. Or they're great when they start, but then they deteriorate, they relapse and they go south from there. It is all about mitigating risks. You cannot remove all of the risk of accepting a poor quality tenant, but you can certainly mitigate that risk. Topic 2 is what is TICA and why you need to know what TICA is. TICA is the largest Australian tenancy database. I personally do not know of any other rental agency that I speak to that does not use TICA. Essentially, if the tenant is owing money from the previous tenancy and does not pay, they will be listed on TICA. You can imagine it being the naughty list of tenants that every property manager sees. It is a great tool to determine if you should be putting a tenant into a property. It does not give everything, it does not tell everything to the story, but it certainly gives a good indication. If for whatever reason the application sent to you for approval says the tenant is listed on TICA, run away screaming, please. Decline the application, and I would recommend finding yourself another property manager, because if we are processing an application and discover that one of the tenants has been ticketed, we don't even bother sending it to the owner for approval. We simply decline it and move on, because we are advocating to get a quality tenant for each client. Topic 3 is a common misconception when discussing applications, and that is that company applications are the best. They're the holy grail of tenancies. Not all companies are equal, and thus not all company applications are equal. A company, you can pay $1,000 online and register yourself as a proprietary limited company. A company could be one person that has just started running their business. If that is the case, they're unlikely that they can afford rent. A company could also be a large company, such as a mining company, which is very, very common in Emerald, Queensland. Before giving the go-ahead for a company application, you need to check, number one, is the company's affordability sufficient and has it been verified? Who will be the exact people residing at the property? For all we know, the company could be letting criminals stay at the property and we would have no idea. Will the company pay to keep the property clean and maintained? Sometimes staff may not be there for 6 months. And in that time, the lawns can become very overgrown. So you want to make sure that the mining company or whoever is renting the property will pay for contractors to attend on behalf of the tenants to keep the property looking great and in good condition. Number 4 is the company stable and legit? Check if their ABN number is verified. A quick Google search can expose a lot of things. The last topic of the video today is everything to check prior to approving an application. This is a comprehensive checklist every single landlord should have on hand when they are looking at approving a tenant to go into one of their investment properties. If you want this document, there will be a link in the description to grab a copy completely free. There are a few things which I have taken out for confidentiality purposes. However, this application, which is right here, is the majority of it. And also, if you want me to look over any application you have received from one of your property managers and you're a little bit concerned, just message me on Instagram and I can take a look, providing the application doesn't disclose any confidential information about the application. As you can see, there is a lot to check in this application, but you cannot be carefree with these decisions. You have to check everything. I was listening to a podcast on Jeff Bezos the other day, and he has a framework for making decisions. Essentially, there are 2 types. Type 1 decisions are high stakes and irreversible once made. Type 2 decisions are highly reversible and low stakes. Approving an application is a type 1 decision because once the tenant signs that lease, there is no going back. They are legally able to pick up keys on that lease start date. The key takeaway from this video is to not be desperate for an application. When you are desperate, shortcuts are made and this checklist is thrown out the window, all for the sake to make a quick dollar. And if your property manager is also taking shortcuts to make a quick dollar, it will be detrimental to your investment property in the long term. And a quick favor, if you found this video helpful, please just hit subscribe and you'll see more of me in the future.